it's time to review headlines of today's newspaper. So thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Peju Ibekwe. We are going to go straight into our review of today's newspapers. And of course, we're going to start with the newspaper of record this day on Saturday. Can we bring up this day, please?
All right, okay. Standing ovation for Oramah. Nations confer him Grand Commander. All right, that's a massive one. Of course, the writers, they say Dangote, Africa can rise through value addition to raw materials, says lack of electricity, policy somersaults hampering industrialization. Lumelu attests to improvement in investment climate across our continent and urges businesses to honor loan obligation.
Yes, that, of course, is coming after the Afrexim Bank's conference that they held this week at Transcorp's new event center that can hold 5,000 people. It was an exceptional event. And I think one thing we have to give Afrexim Bank for is essentially connecting the Black diaspora, particularly African and Caribbean nations. Now, the picture there says award well-deserved. Left to right, we see President Bola Tinubu, and we see Professor Benedict Oramah, the chairman of African Export-Import Bank, and with his wife, Mrs. Chinelu Oramah, during the conference of the conferment of the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger by the President during the 2025 annual meetings of Afrexim Bank in Abuja. Now, on top of the masthead there, we see a friend of the show, Farouk Oriagba. I didn't look for fame, it found me. I'll gladly wear the mantle till I die. Now, Farouk Oriagba is, of course, my lovely uncle, but better known as Ojude Oba's
Mr. Steez.
Mr. Steez, of course, Mr. Steez there. But he spoke very importantly about the sponsorships, the commercialization and the modernization of Ojude Oba in Ijebu. And on top of the that, we have Ganduje's push. Rivers reconciliation signal Tinubu's emerging strategy for the 2027 presidential race. The writer there says chairman's exit paves way for Kwankwaso's imminent return to the APC as analysts see a Kano Rivers Lagos move. And another writer there says vice presidency now in play. Of course, the APC chairman, Ganduje, former governor of Kano State, has resigned from his position as the chairman of the APC.
Okay. Now moving on to the Saturday Vanguard. And the big headline there says political heavyweights using proxies for party registration. All right. The writer there says, plot to dislodge Tinubu fuels 110 party registration bid.
Definitely. I mean, we just like the former headline we just read in this day, it seems that a lot of the headlines in our newspapers today are focused on the 2027 presidential election. Seems politicking is in full force, even though it's just the 28th of June 2025. But of course, the political heavyweights using proxies for party registration. This week, we saw 2 ADA parties trying to be registered, and we also saw an Obedient People party go for registration. Now, INEC has not said that these parties meet the threshold that is required to actually register the parties, but it seems that people do want, people are testing their luck ahead of 2027. And of course, what this day said, I think is very interesting, and it's something that we cannot gloss over. Vice presidency is now in play. Kachi, how do you feel about that? Might Shetima not to be your president come 2027?
That's a conversation that we definitely have had a couple of times, especially last week on the morning show with Dr. Sam Amadi. But again, there's still so many technicalities to it, and I would say it's still a little too early to see. Like I said when I was speaking about Ganduje's exit, there's several reasons that could have led to this incident taking place. But just like the nation's major headline says, Dallery in as Ganduje quits APC chair on health grounds. So maybe it might not be a political exit. It might be as a result of his health. So it might be a little too early to decide, but it could be either or. What I will just say is whatever happens come 2027, there is a legacy that we will look back at in determining whether or not this is the future we want, whether or not it is in the position of vice president or not. And then I always ask this, the people that are currently in power are not sitting ducks. So when we discuss these issues as it pertains to people in power who have not left but might leave, my thought then goes to how do they rationalize these conversations? You know, do they sit down watching us talk about their possible exit from power, wondering what is generating these thoughts? You know, I for one would want to be a fly on the wall in a conversation where, you know, in a room where, you know, the current vice president Shatima is listening to the several talks and calls for possibly him not returning come 2027 as a running mate with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But now sticking to what else is on the nation today, we also see the Rivers conversation play a major role at the top of the paper there. We see how Wike Fubara meeting set stage for a peace deal. Now, I mean, I had a lot to say about this as well, because I don't know why it's being called a peace deal. The writer says the governor returns to FCT minister's political family, makes concessions. What a time that we are in. And of course, let's not forget the Kenyan court declaring Nnamdi Kanu's arrest extradition illegal. And again, NNPCL's management crying out, we're under attack by saboteurs. This is a very, very critical story at this time, considering what we've seen in the last couple of days, several resignations taking place, EFCC questioning a couple of past employees as well. So I guess this also could speak to some of those issues at this time. Whether or not it might be an attack by saboteurs or something more remains to be seen. Adesu and Aaron, back to you guys.
Thank you. You know, you're right there. It would be lovely to be a fly in the wall to hear some of the conversations that are going on about who is going to be our next vice president, particularly because of how we treat zoning in Nigeria. Of course, if the vice presidency is zoned to a different region, let's say Kano, if it's Kwankwaso, or let's say the North Central, which it seems to be what a lot of people are floating, even when it comes to the chairmanship of the APC, that is going to have ripple effects down the line. Who will be the Speaker of the House of Representatives? Is that going to affect who will be the Senate President, or even who would be returned as the Deputy Speaker? But of course, Nigerians still have to vote. They either have to vote for the APC or for any other party they deem fit, and including these parties who are attempting to be registered by INEC. And so we also have to keep our eyes on INEC as we head towards 2027. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, we should take another paper before we have to wrap up here. We might have a little bit of time. Saturday Telegraph. The Saturday Telegraph has the same headline. You know, lots of headlines today are about Ganduje. It says, why Ganduje resigned. But also, Rivers crisis, no more acrimony, we'll work together, say Wike and Fubara. But very importantly there on the Saturday Telegraph, we have a story from the National Assembly, and it says, State Police. National Assembly moves to seek citizens' endorsement. Now, of course, this comes after we've had a conversation today about the kidnapping in Bayelsa State. We've had conversations about insecurity across the nation. State Police is definitely a topic that the National Assembly will be paying attention to, rather, in the coming days.
All right, that's the much we can take this morning as we come to the end of the morning show today. I want to say thank you for watching.